we can get started. I suppose we could all start chatting, but we first worked together, what, in 2003, something like that?
Very
long time ago. So Kiff and I have done a number of things together. So Kiff has a BIFA, is that right? For trawlermen and a BAFTA?
A BAFTA for trawlermen.
Right.
And a BIFA for boiling point.
Boiling point. And he was the sound recordist on Adolescence. And I
Is that camera running? Hey.
Yeah, they're all running. Yeah. So Kiff, start again. So Kiff is a sound recordist I've worked with for over 20 years, got a BAFTA for trawlermen, BIFA for boiling point, and was then the sound recordist on Adolescence. And Kiff came to stay with me a few months ago in the summer, and as I was talking to him about what was involved in Adolescence, it slightly blew my mind, so I thought it would be really good to share with all of you. I can honestly say, and I'm not just blowing smoke up Kiff's fundamentals, but the technical demands of Adolescence, everyone raves about the camera side of it, and that is complicated and the lighting's sophisticated and stuff.
To be fair, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and it was very, very good. But I don't think people really appreciate the level at which that is a sound job, because everyone talks about it being one shot, right? And that's the big thing. But, you know, just the logistics of recording sound in that environment. So that's why I wanted to talk to you with the students. So Kiff and I have done mostly documentary. This is us in Egypt. We've spent like 2 months down a hole.
Yeah.
Filming archaeology. Here's a picture of Kiff recovering from a bout of gastrointestinal infection. Everyone got it, so in the second shoot we actually had a dysentery sweepstake where we all put £5 in at the beginning of the shoot, put our names in a hat, we drew the name out, and you got all the money if the name was the first person to miss a day's work through dysentery. So we've been in some pretty extreme environments. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about was trawlermen. Now this is what you won a BAFTA for. So how did you hear about the job? What was the context?
There was a director I'd worked with previously on quite a few things. And he called me up to the Groucho Club, which is not a place I go terribly often, and brought me a glass of wine and said, there's this idea for a documentary for BBC about trawlermen. So it meant going out on a trawler for like 10 days at a time in the North Sea in winter. And I said, well, how do, when do you sleep? What are the schedules? Can you wash on a boat? And he said, I've got no idea, but no one does, because no one knows what it's like. So that's why I want to make this series of documentaries. And I thought, yeah, it sounds nuts, but quite fun.
So when was this, 2009?
2009, yeah.
Right.
But also the technology wasn't really, it has progressed massively in the last 15 years. But the cameras, at first we were trying to use sort of proper pro cameras, but we just kept breaking them because we kept falling over on the boats, because they were, it's in the middle of winter in the North Sea or the North Atlantic. It's quite rocky. So yeah, we just kept breaking them. So it ended up, we used, I think, PD-150s.
Yeah.
A camera that's not really meant for that sort of thing. And sound recording gear.
It was a domestic camera.
Yeah, it was.
It was basically a high quality domestic camera.
And also, things that you have now, the Zooms, all mixers now record multiple tracks, isolating multiple tracks. None did then. Well, I think the first one came out in 2008, and it really wasn't a thing that we had to play around with. So we were, basically, we had radio mics, or I had radio mics out, and people it would
And
come
we
to
had
my
cables.
mixer,
Yeah.
and you either cabled into the camera, where you had two channels you could record on, or, you know, on a trawl, obviously cable's not possible. Or you put two radio mic sends to go to the camera and record it that way. But there was no, if it wasn't recording on the camera, it wasn't recording.
And so basically you were at that point, which is slightly different from now, because you can record all of your tracks individually and
Yeah.
then you can post mix, right? But you're effectively doing a live mix,
Yes.
and that is the mix.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nowadays, I only send like possibly a mono track to the camera if I do that.
Just for something to hear.
Just so when the editor's chucking it all together, they've got some idea of what's going on. So, you know, they can pick out sort of a really important line and think, okay, definitely going to have this. But often as not, I just send timecode to the camera. So, you know, all the stuff now stays with me, but those days it wasn't like that.
I actually prefer to use timecode only because I've had situations where in the edit they've used the recording from the camera and it's crap,
Yeah.
and they've not gone to the actual recording. So I tend to avoid that.
I have to say, so do I, if
Yeah.
possible.
Right.
But, you know, sometimes, well, it depends, especially if I know that they will definitely, you know, they have a decent edit process in place, and it will go to post, then I'm happy to sort of send it on a track. But if I'm unsure about that, then I'd rather not.
No. So anyway, you're on. So the cameras that you are all using are quite usable and accessible, but the cameras back in 2008, 2009, and this is why in a sense my career path doesn't exist anymore for you lot, they were pretty chunky and sophisticated bits of kit, and if you didn't know how to use them properly, you would mess it up. I mean, there was no auto settings, it was, you know, pretty, I mean, relative to the quality of image now, really poor. They weren't even HD cameras, a lot of them. So you
and also like the whole idea that now, if you're shooting on 4K, you can crop an image. If you've got a bit of a matte box in the corner or something, you can crop an image down. Whereas back then you could not do that. It just, there wasn't enough resolution to stretch that to fit the television screen if you had to take pieces out.
And also the post-production wasn't as sophisticated. So the big cameras weren't working because people were falling over all the time. I mean, I remember hearing about Kiff going on this job because we had Callum came on it. So we had a little pool of people that we were working with who all went and worked with Kiff. And I think Callum did it twice and then got in a Force 8 gale and was like, I am not going back there because the captain fell down the stairs and broke his arm. I think they were strapped into their beds for 2 days solid.
Yeah.
So what was the worst you came across?
Well, if you're on a trawler, they're quite small boats, and the North Sea is really, really rough in winter, because the whole point of it was to show crazy seas and danger and stuff like that. And boats make a lot of noise, they jerk about, things bang, it lurches really suddenly, and I thought at the beginning you think, oh Jesus, there's something wrong. And I thought, I'll be a bag of nerves if I continue like this. I thought, unless the captain starts screaming, there's really nothing to worry about. And so it went on for, you know, I did lots of, I think I did 100 days at sea in total. And one time there was a big storm coming and we were fishing in a place called the Devil's Gorge, I think it was. It would have to be, wouldn't it? We'd had a bad trip, very little prawn was caught, and then we were essentially racing to get back to Peterhead to get into dock because this really big storm was coming up the channel. And we were pulling the tow, the trawl net, pulled it up really to sort of get a wiggle on to get back to port in time, and it was full of prawns. So the captain said, right, turn it around, we're going back. Sort of straight at the storm, really. So we did. We trawled for about 4 hours in the wrong direction, and then it was like, get everything on board, batten everything down, you know, it's about to hit us, and it did. And everyone, in those sort of situations, what you do is, apart from the person on watch, you go to your bunk, because the boat's moving too much to walk around without getting hurt. So you just lie in your bunk. And I'd fallen asleep, and I woke up to the captain screaming. And I thought, oh no, now we're going to die.
You've just crossed your threshold.
Yeah, that was the one threshold that I say, providing he's not screaming, I'm fine. And then I woke up and he was screaming. Because we'd been hit by a really big wave, and the boat's travelling this direction. It pushed the boat through 90 degrees and then put it over onto its side. And fishing boats are not like a yacht, which has got a big keel underneath which pulls it back up. Fishing boats are like those toy boats in a bathtub, and all the heavy stuff is at the bottom of the boat, but it's all loose. So as soon as you turn it on its side, or worse, slightly more than on its side, all that just moves straight to the other side of the boat, and then it sinks like a rock. So it's a very, very dangerous thing if a fishing boat does that, and that's what the captain was screaming about. But it brought back up again, so it's
right, fun. I mean, I have to say, there was no part of me that wished to be on that shoot at all. But you won a BAFTA for it, but you had to innovate, like make stuff to make it work, like the radio link.
yeah.
Because there's no way you can be on a cable.
No, I mean a lot of that stuff, and I have to say quite a lot of things I've done in my career have been people asking to do something which technology isn't quite ready to do. So it's a question of forcing, and I'm sure this is going to happen to all of you, it's a question of forcing the technology you do have to do something that's really the next step along. And I've been lucky enough to be asked to do quite a lot of things like that in my time. And it's challenging, but it's fascinating and also quite a lot of fun. So on tournament, I had two transmitters sending the mixed feed that I was mixing from the mixer.
Basically like that one.
Exactly like that. Two of those going to two receivers, which I got a Tupperware box, a long Tupperware box, which I screwed into the base of the camera, put the two receivers in there, drilled holes to get the cables through, and then soldered the cables in on the inside of it. Filled it all with silicone paste, and then basically that was, you could drop the camera could get wet, it was all protected, and it worked. I mean, on the whole, really, really rather well. But again, that's the thing. It's thinking, okay, we don't normally do this, but it is possible if you just think slightly outside the box.
Yeah. So let's see a little clip from Trawler then. I'm just going to turn these lights down. Hello everyone. Right, let me just put the lights up again. Unfortunately, I have to have it at a weird level because otherwise the lights strobe on us. Are the cameras alright, or are they strobing? So you got the BAFTA for that in 2010. Did that impact your career at all?
It didn't.
Really?
It really didn't. No. I mean, it's very nice to have.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm proud of having. But do people start ringing up the next day and going, "Oh, you've got to come and work for us"? No. But I think it's not really the prizes you win, it's the things you've worked on. If people have seen them and they're impressed by them, then, and also after doing tournament, I got asked to do quite a lot of other difficult things. Because you're going to get typecast if they think, "Oh, that sounds really horrible."
Get Kiff.
Get Kiff in, because he's stupid enough to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up doing a lot of things like that. And I've also, I've done quite a lot of first series of things where it's basically some director has got an idea and it's a bit impossible, and they say, "Oh, I'd really like to do it," and then they ask someone like me to come in and see if you can actually do it. So things like, okay, Bear Grylls, The Island, I did the first one of those. Again, that was recording.
Genuine documentary.
It was actually the first one.
Truly
was a genuine documentary.
It's kind of
changed a bit, I think.
Let's not say no more about that until the cameras are off.
But again, it was, how do you take 15 people and record them 24 hours a day if you're actually on an island? And
you had to live on the island for that, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you weren't allowed food?
No. Well, anything you could find. I lost 15 kilos in that month.
In a month?
In a month, yeah.
Half a kilo a day?
I think 3 went really quickly, it was just water.
Right.
Because
But so you had to scavenge your own food?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So I did that and kind of sorted out the system how it could be done. Because the big problem there is time code, really. We had, I think, 7 different cameras on the island because everyone was encouraged to pick up a camera if they were going off to do something. Because we had a cameraman, a dedicated cameraman on the island, but you can only be in one place at one time.
So the contestants were filming themselves?
Everyone filmed
everything.
And the whole idea was, it's an experiment. There's no point in doing this experiment. People can't see what happens or what it's like. So if you went off to do something, take a camera with you.
And at that point you didn't really have time code systems the way that there are?
Not the same way. So it was a question of trying to figure out a way to spread time code across all the cameras, so 7 different cameras. But also everyone had recording packs on. And it was a way of trying to, because, if you record 24 hours a day with 15 people, that's a shit ton of hours of footage. Now, if you don't have a really accurate way of going, here's the picture, I want the sound for that, you don't have a way of finding it, you will never find it. If you've got over 1,000 hours of audio to wade through, you can't scroll forward like you can on pictures, just fast shuffle along to a thing and, that bit. You can't do that with sound. So you must have a really accurate way of sort of syncing A, time code on the camera, and B, time code on the audio recorders. So I came up with a way to do that, and then from that I did the first series of Hunted. Again, you're sending people out with a producer-director who's quite often they're not the most technical people, and you've got to sort of somehow develop a system where the slightly non-technical people can't fuck it up if they're left alone for 2 weeks. Which is difficult, I'll tell you. People, the stuff
if there's anything available to get wrong, it will go wrong.
One producer-director said, the mic was stopped working. I said, fine, in the next pickup, I'll just give it back. She goes, no, I threw it away. It stopped working, so she just literally binned it. And I said, but if the camera did that, you wouldn't just chuck it in the first bin, would you? She goes, no. But everything, okay, well.
But that's often, and that's an interesting point because sound is often undervalued.
It is. Until you get a really silent movie and then suddenly everything on.
But you will often be in a situation and the director or producer comes to the cinematographer and talks to you and you're thinking, well, this is a Kiff question, it's not a me question, or Kiff should be in this discussion. So that's something that quite often happens, and I'd encourage you to look out for and avoid in your own work, but sort of that undervaluing. But it's interesting because I want to move on to Adolescence, but what Trawlerman makes me think of is these different phases in terms of television that you see. So at the moment, documentary is just not being commissioned, flat out. And that's partly because why would you do a 1-hour science documentary that costs you £250,000 to make when you could have 3 experts sat in a room doing 3 1-hour podcasts for a fraction of the cost and cover the same content, and then obviously you don't have the nice pictures and the sequences and stuff, but I think it's just really hard to justify spending that money when a high-end, this is from The Escapist, which was £1 million an episode filming in Panama, but the thing that I showed before in Egypt was for National Geographic and cost 350, 400,000 an hour to do an archaeology thing. So, but Trawlerman was at a phase where this kind of docu-soap where you are immersively in someone's lives, and we all worked on vets in practice and
yeah, it was the start of well, it wasn't completely the start, but it was, you know, because you had things that were factual television, but essentially set up like things like changing rooms, lots of things like decorating houses, or you know, they're buying houses and that sort of thing. Trawlerman was probably one of the first. I mean, in some ways, it was a trendsetter because it was the first. Well, docu-soap. You go in and you actually film real people doing real things. But in other ways, it was just really a very late example of a true observational documentary, which you don't get too much anymore because it means you just sit and you watch, and that takes time. And obviously, a cameraman, a sound man, a director, all of that, what they want to do is set it up so you've got stuff to film each hour that you're there, because we're expensive. Back in the day, you used to do observation documentaries where you would literally watch what people, in that way, also there's some incredibly powerful documentaries because people start to relax around you, you start to become family rather than, oh, there's a guy with a camera in my face. And then truth comes out, which is, can be incredibly powerful. Now on a trawler, because you're stuck there, we were there for 10 days, and both me and the director said, well, if we're going to do it, let's just really do it. So we just watched everything, we filmed everything. We worked with them in the room of death where they gut the fish and stuff, we shot the nets with them, we did literally everything because we had nowhere else to go, and, well, why not? So yeah, that's very old school documentary, but it still happens in certain things, but possibly.
It's quite rare though. I mean, the only one that I can think of that's really running at the moment is the one about the courtroom on ITV, 24 hours in police custody.
But then you get the produced programmes, so I name another one which I'm sure all of you know, Love Island. That is essentially an observation documentary. Okay, it's stirred up like crazy by producers, and they sort of force the contestants to leak through hoops. But that is an observational documentary, just not very valuable, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I think all of us have worked on stuff that we were really uncomfortable with ethically, so you might want to ask that in your Q&A. But this photo here is from a show I did with Richard Hammond and Tori Bellici, and Kiff was the sound recordist on that programme. Basically, we were on an island in Panama. The only purpose of that island, as far as I could see, was to launder drug money from the Medellin cartel, and we happened to hire the hotel for like a month. But I mean, it was a bizarre place. They had a full road crew to maintain the road, and there were only 8 people who lived on the island, other than the road crew. And they had a sort of landing strip where you could fly in under the radar and just land on this cliff top. Anyway, it was very weird. But we finished this in March 2020, like literally 10 days before COVID. And I remember having the conversation on the plane, go, oh, what are you on to next? And Kiff said, well, I'm going to do this one-shot thing with Stephen Graham. And you did this, you had to close down because of COVID, or what happened?
It was planned that we'd shoot for 5 days. We had, so basically do two runs through a day, and we're going to get 10 goes at it. Actually, I think it was meant to be 8 goes at it, but if we couldn't get it in the 8, there was a possibility of doing it on the Friday as well. So we came into the venue, which is a working restaurant, on the Wednesday, brought all the kit in. I put my first immediately with the actors and the cameraman, Matt, same guy who shot Adolescence, to start learning the dance, because that's what it is. It's
choreography.
It's a dance. you know, not just that the camera and sounds person have to learn, but the actors have to learn as well. They can't step back at a certain moment because they'll be straight into a camera, or you know, if they turn this way, the camera won't be able to get round to do the next thing.
Or
So
you won't hear them.
Exactly. So it is something. It's a complicated dance that all the participants must know. So we've got on that. We technically rigged it. You know, we have mics all over the place. I've mixed it with another mixer, which I did exactly the same in Adolescence, the same mixer, because I think there was 30. I can't remember, 32 or 34 speaking roles in that. So we needed mics on 34 people, and I had 2 mixers and 2 control surfaces like that one, but with 12 fades on each, just so I could do enough. And then I had another, my colleague Rob Entwistle was at another place in the restaurant with another mixer and another control surface to pick up the slack. You know, things I just couldn't handle. I haven't got that many fingers to start with, so it was a bit of a struggle, that one. But it works in the end.
And then this is the team that went on to do Adolescence, and so they asked you about. But I think, didn't you have to cut this short because of COVID?
Yeah, we did. We did the first live tape we did on the Monday, which was kind of all right. No one fell over or no one died, but it was, And then the second tape we did on the Monday was possibly the worst experience of my entire life. It was, you'll get this, I'm sure, either you're a cameraman or a sound recordist or whatever. Sometimes, when you're panning, you always just seem to be a bit behind. Something distracts you, they start speaking, you think, oh, and then they start speaking again, and then it's really difficult to catch up.
Yeah.
And normally, you get through like a little scene, you think, oh, that was dreadful, we'll go again on that one. But with Boiling Point, it was an hour and a half long. I was just like in a car crash for an hour and a half. We had technical problems, things stopped working, I think the camera stopped recording at one point. It was just utter disaster. And at the end
and COVID's bubbling away in the background.
Yeah. But at the end of it, I honestly thought, I'm not sure that I can do this. Or I'm not even sure this is possible, what we're trying to do. And then the producer came up to me and said, look, with the COVID thing, we've got 150 people in this restaurant. It's going to lock down any second. I'm not sure I can keep them coming back. I'm afraid. Because everything on the news is, you're reading sort of, don't go out, we will die. If you do go out, you'll probably kill your grandmother or something. It's this sort of hysteria. And we had 150 people in a restaurant with no masks. They're all like this. Yeah, people were afraid. He said, I think I can get them back for tomorrow, but that's it. So we had essentially 2 more goes at it. And this is after the worst take of my life. And then the third one, the first one on Tuesday, perfect, absolutely. That was the one we used, actually.
Okay.
So there you go.
So let's have a look at Adolescence. I've just got to do a bit of fapping here. Fappage.
So you only ever did 4 takes on it and you used number 3, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Number 4 was actually also technically perfect. It's just the actors were a bit tired, so it wasn't. The director said, I just prefer 3. But yeah, technically, it just suddenly clicked. We could do it. Suddenly.
Sometimes you just get lucky.
Sometimes you do, if you practice really a lot.
So, I have to say the writing's really good. That moment with the card when he goes, it's from my dad and Jean, written by Jean. Yeah. He's got 5, everything about the relationship with his dad. It's brilliant. So, but basically, just tell us about how you got into it and what your initial sort of experience thinking about how you might get into it. And then what I've got here is a breakdown scene by scene. And you talked me through this, because we were drinking red wine and gabbing. And I just think to give an idea of what you're choreographing on the programme. So how did you, obviously the team you work with on Boiling Point?
Yeah, they approached me about 6 months before we shot this and said, we'd like to try a series, all one shots. Are you interested? And I found Boiling Point, I mean, scary, but tremendously fun to do. So I said, yeah, I'm absolutely interested. And they sent me the script. And I said, I want to do it with Rob Entwistle again.
So there's 2 sound mixes on it, because you're in your Emmy nomination there's 2 of you, right?
Yes. Just because especially in Adolescence, more so than in Boiling Point, there are too many parts when suddenly you have one area and then suddenly you move to another area. And the best way to do that, and exactly the same with our boom operators, our second assistants, who, for those of you who don't know, a boom operator is a first assistant. The second assistant also operates a boom, but mostly does radio mics. And then a trainee does whatever they're capable of, really. You try to push them as hard as you can, but it depends on their capabilities. So in the same way that you'll have a boom operator doing this bit and then passing on to another one, for a one shot it really works if you have 2 mixers that you can.
Because I mean, you can get the camera through a door, but you might not be able to get a camera and a boom operator through the door at the same time. So if you're switching room, you need to have somebody in the next room.
Exactly.
And then in the next room, and in the next room, and in the next room.
Yeah, and that's where it comes. So as soon as we got the scripts, Rob and I went through it with a fine-tooth comb. So you have to look at every single thing and think, okay, here we were going to need. Well, firstly, you break it down to quite simple things. How many characters do you have who will need radio mics? So anyone who says anything, they need a radio mic. So you count the radio channels you're going to need first, which tells you something. So if you need X amount of channels, you need X amount of channels on the recorder, so you need X amount of recorders, and then how many plant mics you're going to use. Okay, this house, I had, I think, 5 plant mics in there.
That's fixed mics in the room, hidden somewhere.
Yeah, so a plant mic, what it does, it gives you a way to collect sound in an area that you find it difficult to get to, either because of the size of the shot. If the camera comes into a room, it sees the whole room. It's very difficult to get a boom in the right place for someone. Whereas there might be, if they're standing beside a fridge, there might be an area behind the fridge. If you've got a plant mic, you can have a mic pointing straight at them. Now, again, if you know this already, excuse me, but just in case you don't, you put radio mics on everyone, but you do not want to just have a radio mic on the people in anything really. A radio mic is excellent, it's clean, it's close proximity, but it doesn't have the room, it doesn't pick up much of the room. It's designed to pick up one thing, the human voice, from close. So it sounds as if you're in a telephone box. Whereas a boom actually picks up, it works much more like your ears. It actually picks up the sound of the room, it's directional, so it mostly picks up your voice. So what you want to have is, you want to have a radio mic on everyone, sure, but you want to have a boom across everyone as well. And then once you deliver all that to post, they can decide the perfect mixture of the radio mic and the boom. Yeah. And it might be just the boom. It may be less likely just the radio mic, but almost certainly it will be a mix of those 2 things. I've completely lost.
So you're talking about you've go through the script, you've broken it down, you've figured out how many radio mics. Well, I think one episode on this is like 36 cost.
Yeah.
The one at the police station.
The one at the school is, I think.
Oh, the one in the school is.
Was the highest.
But then you're also moving between outside, inside, van, then a location. So I mean, I'm just going to run through this just to give everyone a sense. So you start out.
Can I just say, what you've seen there, already. That's you have 2 first assistants and boom operators and 1 second assistant all working on that thing. I've got 2 first assistants in the house. House is a really difficult place. I had to have one upstairs and one downstairs. I also had Rob in the house, the other mixer, hidden in the toilet. The reason we need 2 boom ops in the house is that the stairs, if any of you have seen it, the stairs are really narrow. What happens is, in this, the wife goes upstairs and talks to her daughter. Now the boom op downstairs can cover her coming out the kitchen, going up the stairs, onto the landing, but then she'll disappear into the daughter's bedroom. Now the camera is following her up. Behind the cameraman you've got a grip who's helping the cameraman not fall down the stairs, essentially. So you cannot get up and into that bedroom before that scene starts with a boom, especially a long boom. So what you have to do, you have to go, okay, there's no point even trying that. We need someone upstairs. So behind the door in the daughter's bedroom, there's a boom op sounding like that. As soon as they come in, bonk, on them.
And also, so this is just to give you a sense, right? So we've got radio mic and a boom mic outside.
Yeah.
Radio and a boom mic outside. They go inside.
That's the downstairs boom op now. Suddenly, as soon as you see
That's
those
the
doors,
second boom op.
No, outside was the second assistant.
Right.
Because we needed someone with an outside boom. They're different. Mics used inside and outside, quite different. You know, the outside boom's bigger, it's got wind protection, stuff like that. The inside boom's much smaller, doesn't have a back lobe on it, so it doesn't get reflection from the ceiling. So anyway, we had the second assistant on outside, getting in from the shed. No dialogue, but you heard that sound, didn't you? You saw all those kids playing in the background. Okay, some of that's post, but
just moving the door, shutting the door.
All those things sort of help set a mood. It's a thoughtful mood. He's 13 months on from a hideous thing that's happened to his family. It's his birthday. He's coming to terms with it. He's trying his hardest to come to terms with it. All that sets that up. Then as soon as he gets inside, the first assistant takes over. The downstairs first assistant is on the mic, into the kitchen, that part.
Right, so then you go outside, so the person who is in the back garden...
No.
No.
Bizarrely enough, no. Okay, outside the front of the house, if you look at... Can you see that? Yeah. Outside the front of the house, to the right of that van, I'm sitting in a 18-seater van with the mixing desk and but also with me is the director, the producer, the first assistant. So it's Video Village in there as well, and I'm mixing from there. And we had...
And the DOP's in there, did you say?
No, DOP wasn't. Focus puller gets him as
right.
Off. But anyway, for the whole thing, we had 3 first assistants, so proper boom ops, 2 second assistants, and 1 trainee.
And 2 mix sound mix.
And 2 sound mixers.
So who's recording boom here? You've got someone on the front.
That's the third. So we've got 2 boom ops in the house, 1 boom op I've got to do all the rest. So the house needed 2 boom ops, 1 second assistant. Because there's a really fast costume change later on that she needed to be there for. I've got 1 first assistant, 1 second assistant, and a trainee to do all the outside stuff. So when they come out here, I've got my first assistant out the van with a boom on them, and we need a boom on them because the first thing he does, he goes to his daughter, he goes, "It's not your fault, hug." And then later on, it's "Happy birthday, Dad," hug again.
So the radio mics are gone at that point.
Exactly. Also, you need, see the woman across the street? You need, I had a radio mic on her, I had a radio mic on the 2 kids who drive past later, I had a radio mic down. I've got radio mics on them, but what I need to put her in the distance. And you do that with the boom. Because if you use her radio mic, she'll sound like
she's right
this.
Right, so then he goes back in the house.
Back to the set.
You're downstairs.
Yeah.
And then you go upstairs, so now you've got someone waiting in the top room.
Has been the whole time.
She's puts a jack. She then goes. Then you go back outside.
He washes the van.
He washes the van. Then you've got 2 lads who cycle past. You've got them on radio mic. You've also got a boom. Then you go back inside.
Yeah. The reason we had to go back inside and into the kitchen on this was the idea at first was he goes, it's not working, sod this, chucks the bucket, walks into the wall, goes, right, we're going to Wainwright's. But the van you see there, we had two vans. That was one, and the other one's identical except for the fact it's got a pod on top with the driver in it. Because if you're filming something, you can't have actors acting and driving on a public road. So what we needed to do, as soon as he came in from the second time, having washed the van, because again, when you go out, you can see the whole van, the top of it as well. When he goes back into the house for the second time, that van has to then be driven away, and the van with the pod on top has to be reversed into that position. And we had, I think, 90 seconds to do that. And we couldn't do it if they were in the hall, because you just hear it. You know, two vans driving up and down. So that was why we said to the director, we've got to push this into the kitchen for at least 60 seconds so we can get that done.
Right, so then you go inside. So that's actually a two-way conversation, isn't it? Like, oh, we need to do this for Sam. So then they put the jackets on, and the jackets create a problem because now you're covering the radio mic. So you've got radio mics in the jackets?
Not all of them, just his.
Right.
He's got a radio mic under that purple t-shirt, which is, I have to say,
invisible.
A brilliant bit of radio.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cheese work.
Yeah.
But when you put the jacket on, and then get in the van, and then put a seatbelt on the jacket, it sounded dreadful, the radio mic on his t-shirt. The girls, not so much. Her jacket, you see, is quite open, and the mother's is also reasonably open. So that works. His didn't, so he put a second radio mic into that jacket.
Right. So then they get in the van, and he's got two radio mics on, they've all got a radio mic on, but then you've also rigged the car.
Yes, so there are three, okay, you can't get a boom on that, obviously, you're in a van. So what you do, the next thing, you put a plant mic in. So we have three mics, one above him, one above her, one above her.
Okay, so then you go into Wainwright's and you're back outside. So Rob's in the house.
One other thing, in the back of that van is the trainee, because when they're going there, they play an Aha song on the phone. Now, rather like I said, you don't give producer directors any task that they can mess up. We didn't want them to mess up with the phone because we were going to later use that phone for a real phone call. So what we needed to do, I had a trainee in the back of the van doing playback. So we had a speaker in the back of the van. As soon as they hit a certain line, she'd hit playback, and we've got that. So
then you've got the music is actually playing live.
What the trainee is also doing, because I have another mixer in that van, she's monitoring. I've got in the chase, the lead van that I'm in, I can monitor all their radio mics while we're driving. I can't monitor the three plant mics.
So you've had to get back into the 18-seater, the 18-seater pulls out, then the van with the pod on it pulls out behind it and is now following you to Wainwright's.
Yeah.
You get to Wainwright's, now you've got to pile out. Did you have a boom op there already?
Yeah, no. That was the boom op that's travelled with me in the van.
Right.
But also what became a problem is the fact that initially where we parked, because we pulled in first, they parked the van and they walked into Wainwright's. Where our van was positioned, the 18-seater, I could get coverage all the way to the back of Wainwright's. But then when we were practicing it, they realised that when they were coming out, they were going to see the van I was in. Now, it was just a big white van, but they didn't want to. So our van had to move as soon as they went in there to another position, which meant I couldn't get coverage of the back of the store.
Because the building's basically blocking all your radio
There's probably 50 extras in there, so bags of water, that stops radio waves. There's paint, there's all sorts of things in there, and it's a huge warehouse. So if they go right down to the back and then go into an aisle with lots of paintings, you're not going to get it. So what I had to do then, as soon as we land at Wainwright's, my boom op jumps out to get them getting out of the van. I jump out. I've got my main mixer in the van on a cart. I pull down all the faders on that, just push up one, which is a send from another mixer, which I've got hung around my neck.
Right.
So I then run in, well, follow them in, mixing the conversation, their radios, the booms.
So then you've got this lad is
But
on.
what I'm essentially doing is my main purpose is I'm a link between the booms and the radio mics. I have to go close enough to them to maintain their
And all
coverage.
of your boom mics are on radios as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're not
yeah.
cable.
No, they're
Okay.
not his cable.
So you.
But then I have to say it's close enough to the van that they can get the signal I'm sending from my mixer. And that's, okay, the director's got to hear it, obviously, but almost more importantly, the first assistant has to be able to hear it, because she has to be able to cue everything to happen. And there's a lot of cueing going on,
Yeah.
something as complicated as this. So if you can't hear it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
So then you go out and you chase the lads onto the canal,
yeah, as soon as we get out, I run back to the van,
get into the big white van.
you know, start using mixers again. My boom op runs after them. And again, we needed a boom op there because
You're grabbing the jacket.
exactly, you know, if you've got anyone doing this with radio mics, I mean, it's a complete toss-up whether you're going to get that sound or not, and usually you're not.
So then you get, the camera gets back in the car.
Camera's now actually sort of moving, well, just as the camera stays outside, he's opened the back door of the van to chuck in the plant, and that was one of the reasons we did the whole plant thing, was so he could open the back door. Then the security guard calls him, he goes off, the camera's standing there next to the van, and as he walks back, the camera sidesteps into the van, where there's a grip to keep hold of it. And then
you've got a drive, and then you've got a phone call, but it's a live phone call
Yeah.
with the young actor, what's his name?
Owen.
Owen, yeah.
Yeah,
so then you've got the phone call in the car, which is an actual phone call.
yes, that's quite difficult to do actually, especially in Pontefract where the signal is terrible. But the director wanted it to be a proper phone call so they could react to each other's silences. You know, those awful pregnant pauses that happen. Rather than it just being played out, his answers. The director was insistent, he wanted it to be a proper phone call. So we had, back at the house, Rob had Owen, Jamie, the character, on the phone recording that, and then in the van we recorded that end, and they could do that. We were just sort of, everyone was like this, you know, please do not lose.
So when you record, so you then have a recorder on the phone as well?
No, basically
Just from the radio mic?
from the radios, the plant mics.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the van, we've got everything in the van. So.
Yeah. So then you go back inside, and now you're downstairs.
Well, what happens first is he gets out of the van, goes inside, goes upstairs, and immediately changes his shirt. So the second assistant, Chi, is upstairs waiting to quickly.
Because you've got to
Rejig his
go
radio
one
mic.
radio mic on,
Yeah.
one on. So
And
he
does
goes
that.
in, and then
This scene, which is,
this plays out.
again, that's a boom downstairs, captures that, and then it's the same thing. There's a boom op in the bedroom, hiding, waiting for this to happen.
And at this point, you're quite a long way from him. So how, you know, you've got, you're going to have a split two booms on this?
As soon as the second boom could get upstairs, because it was quite difficult to do, because the camera actually went up, I don't know if you've seen the making of film, but the stairs sort of go up, round to the top. So what happens, as she walks up, the cameras, they build some steps up. So the cameraman sort of literally lifts the boom, walks up some steps with the camera following her, and then another camera operator
Takes it over.
pulls it up over the banisters and follows it into the room. Now we've already got one boom in the room for him. My second boom comes up the stairs to get, because if you see her, she's much closer, so with a longish boom you can get to her, and the other boom is much deeper into that room.
But you can't, you know, there's no way you could use
No,
one
need two
boom in
booms.
there.
But when they're sitting down,
Yeah, which is there.
then it becomes one boom. And then also when the daughter comes in, they all stand up and it becomes, again, one boom, because then the second boom has to literally sneak out of the room, sneak into the son's room, and be hiding behind the door for the final scene.
Which is this one here.
The teddy bear.
And then you're out.
But while that's happening, while the two boom ups are upstairs, Chi, the second assistant, is hiding in Jamie's room while the daughter comes up to her room. She then sneaks in. Again, this is while all this is happening. This really emotional scene in the bedroom. Sneaks into the daughter's room, remics her because she changes her outfit completely, and then she hides in that room as she leaves.
So this is a different top from the one she was in, so you've had to change radio mics from when she was in the car.
Yeah.
Right. So that just leaves us with any questions? I mean, I've put up a little Padlet here. I've got a few questions already. Testing. That's Richard Thomas. Thank you, Richard. For these one-shot things, how do you deal with potential phase issues between different recording sources? Are the movements choreographed so you're fairly sure you won't encounter them?
No. You can get phase issues if you're running
Just
radio
explain what that is.
Okay, a phase issue, if you have two mics recording the same source, so you have your personal mic here and a boom here, you can actually hear this yourself if you put it into mono mix on a mixer. If you move the boom closer and closer, at a certain point you'll start to get phase issue, it starts to cancel itself out. Should I go into?
Yeah.
Okay,
Quickly.
Okay, phase is, sound waves move like this. Yeah? Everyone knows that. Phase, if a sound wave, if one's going up while the other's going down at exactly the same point, when they come down, they cancel each other out once they touch. Now, that almost never happens, but you can do it. You can remove sound by putting another thing at exactly the same thing, but out of phase. But what happens more often is it's slightly out of phase, and then the sound starts to sound thin. Check it out yourself. If you've got a boom and a personal mic and someone, put it onto a mono mix, and as you pull the boom further or closer, you'll hear it starting to sound wrong.
So does it eliminate a lot of the background then?
No, it just starts to sound thin. You start to lose parts of the sound.
Right.
But, okay, so that can happen, and in something as freefall as this, it certainly probably did. Again, I'm not listening to the radio and the boom in the same way. You're sort of mixing it. If I know the boom's on it, I'm listening to the boom. You know, I'm not actually mixing down like that. But post now can do something about that. If you have something that's you're starting to get a phase issue, in post you can jog it so it's no longer out of phase.
Okay, cool. And then the other one, what about microphone choices and changes? Do you have favourites for, say, booms?
On this we used C-nits for the main boom. That's Sherp's mic. They're pretty, at the top end of stuff, they're pretty ubiquitous. They're expensive mics, they're very, very good, very, very clean and very neutral sounding. So it just
quite small as well, right?
No, C-nits as long as most sort of
416 as well.
Directional mics. We use that for outside, and inside I use Sennheiser MKH50s because, as I mentioned, it's not hypercardioid, so it doesn't have the back lobe, which a C-nit does. A 416, any boom mic you're likely to operate, it's got front lobe, but it's also got a back lobe, which is not great if you're under a ceiling. Okay, you can get away with it, but you're getting more reflections than you'd really ideally want. So an MKH50, that long.
Yeah.
Personally, I really like the sound of it. Ask a dozen mixers, you probably get a dozen different mics, but that's what I think.
Was there a particular scene in Adolescence or Boiling Point that was the hardest to record sound, and what was the hardest to choreograph or plan for?
few that were kind of tricky. I said one that stands out, the very first scene in Adolescence, because you've got a quiet scene by a car, so outside of the car, and then it's getting into the car, and then it's driving up the street, and then it's sort of choreographing with, well, I think there were 8 vehicles in that raid. Choreographing all that, getting...
And famously, the van that you're in has got police
Yes.
decals on it, right?
Yes, yes. So we're sort of in it. You can see our van as the crane comes around the corner and we're heading up the street. But as soon as they get in the car, my boom op has to jump into the van with us. We drive up the street. The assault team pulls up. We're pulling up at exactly the same time. My boom op's jumping out to cover the police as they line up to kick the door down. And then once it gets in the house, it just goes utterly apeshit, because the director...
Everyone's shouting.
Everyone's shouting, and we're saying, normally it's not how you do a film. You do it once like that, and then you say, right, everyone mime, because if you're upstairs, you don't want people screaming downstairs, get some real dialogue. You record that, and then you put it in post. It's much more controllable. But the director, and I completely agree with him, I have to say, wanted that house to feel tense and terrifying, also for all the cast members, all the actors involved. He wanted that performance out of them, that they were completely hyped up. Police as well. And I think you can actually tell that everyone's completely amped in that house. And that's because of that. But it does create problems, because there's sound like everywhere. But yeah, so that was probably the hardest one to do, technically and choreography, technically, performance-wise.
But I mean, for context, you did what, 3 weeks of rehearsals and then 1 week of shoots, or?
No, we did. For each episode, there was 3 weeks. First week was meant to be a director's rehearsal, so the director running through it with the actors.
But then the camera operators started getting involved in that early.
Yeah. And then the second week was a tech rehearsal week, so that's all of us, all the toys, start at the beginning and just work our way through it until we stumbled, stop, talk about it, go back, try it again. And by Wednesday, the tech rehearsal, we were running right through it. And actually, by Wednesday, we kind of, we're starting to understand how we could do it. We started recording on Thursday, tech rehearsal week, just so we bring it back at the end of the day and on Friday, look at it and go, where are we going wrong? Or, okay, the camera's coming into that room. For us, it's that high, so I can be that deep with the boom in that shot. And then we get together with the camera crew and say, look, in this scene, you see where you are, can we count on that? If we go there, will you make sure you hit that? And once they knew what we needed, they were sort of more than happy to help us. Or they said, look, I'm going to have to do this. Provided they told us we could move around it. We go, okay, we just got to fade off and then back in again, because the camera's got to do that. So there's a lot of corroboration. Yeah, but also, we use those final 2 days to sort of kind of work out those last little things. And then on the Monday of shoot week, we'd do 2 runs through, and then Tuesday 2. And even if you got, I think the first step, I think it was the second one they used on the Monday.
Second take.
The second take, I think.
Yeah, because there was some chatter about that on the Association of Camera Operators, that the camera had actually glitched at one point, but they decided that they didn't mind and they just wanted to.
Yes.
You take that take because the performances were stronger.
Yes, that's what it was. It was when everything just seemed to work best. We never stopped, even if the director said, that's the one. We'd still do 2 more the next day, 2 more the next day, 2 more the next. Just because you never know. The second episode, it was the last take that we used. In fact, it was the only take that we got when we got it. And the
Second episode, what?
school.
The school. Oh yeah, that is
Yeah.
something else.
That was really difficult.
Because you've got running after people and
Yeah, and then just so many cast. I mean, there was 250 kids in that school, and they were all part of it. So it was very, very complicated, that episode. And then suddenly one of the producers said, we'd really like Stephen Graham to be in this. So it was meant to end with the drone taking off, going over and seeing, you know, from the sky where the
flowers,
where the murder happened.
yeah.
And they said, couldn't we land the drone and then Stephen could be there and he could react. And on any other shoot, the answer to that would be no way. Because it's just, imagine an hour-long one shot, and then you try and chuck something like that in, which none of us practiced for, and it's very difficult, that.
Yeah.
And if you could do it like half a dozen times, you'd definitely get it. But if you're doing it after an hour's shooting and everything's gone perfectly, and then you try and do something like that, it's quite risky.
And certainly ambitious.
But because the director was such a, well, we'd all have literally jumped off a cliff from that. He was so generous, and you know, when we said, look, we've got to have this, he went, you've got it. So when he said, I want this, we all just went, okay. But it was like that, really. But that was difficult. And also the F4, which we were just looking at, that was the last take. Not because the others were technically good, but it was just that performance was just stellar. So
Yeah.
it was that one.
Iona, I'm going to ask you, is that your question kind of been answered?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, great. G, for Adolescence, do you have to record room tone?
Yes,
Yeah, every room. Right, so-
everywhere. There's a lot of, you know, we recorded, there's loads and loads of pickups we did. For example, the hot chocolate machine in episode 3, in episode 1, the coffee, you know, the coffee thing in the family room. Yeah, we recorded, you know, samples of just everything.
Yeah. There's two questions here, great questions from Harry and Laurie. Do you think your work on observational docs in tricky environments informed shooting one shots such as Boiling Point and Adolescence? If so, how? And do you think it gave you an edge when they were looking for someone to record sound? I mean, I always view you as a problem solver. Like if I've got a shoot where I'm like, I'm okay with what I'm doing, but the sound's going to be an absolute nightmare, then I'll go like, get Kiff in.
Yes, to both those questions, very, very much so. I think doing, also I did 15 years with Top Gear, which was essentially filming a car crash happen again, you know, just over and over.
Not even including the actual
No,
car
with
crash.
nothing to do with cars.
Yeah.
It does help, and I would honestly recommend anyone factual filming. I'll tell you how it helps you in dramas. Factual, with a drama, say you've got a scene with Piers has just visited his long lost cousin, comes out the house and goes to the car. Now in drama what you'll do is, we've got from the house door to the car, that's a scene. We're not thinking about what happens next, we're thinking about that. Whereas in factual, you never know what's going to be said. So you're not just thinking about that walk from there to the car, because Piers might get in the car and go, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, blah, blah, blah. You just don't know when that bit of gold, because you don't even know what the gold is. You don't know when it's going to happen either. So in factual, what you do is you plan for not just the walk, but when he gets in the car, have I still got it? And that can be as simple as, okay, if I'm going to put a radio mic on Piers, now he's going to come out of the house, so I think, well, just right, perfect position for a radio mic. But if he's going to get in the car, he's then going to put a seatbelt on, which is going right over the top of that.
And that depends whether you're driving or in the passenger seat.
exactly that.
So you'll position the mic away from the...
But then, okay, say I put the mic, this is just another thing. He's driving. So I put it, I think, tell you what I'll do, I'll put it there. So the seatbelt will go like that. Brilliant. But the trouble is, where's he going to drive to? If he's going to drive to see someone else, what's going to happen is he drives to there, so he goes to a farm to see his cousin's brother. He goes there, he meets someone, he'll get out of the car, he will naturally think about it. Oh, hello, get out of the car, he will be on that side. The person you get out of the car to will be on that side of you. Now, if your mic's there, you're immediately putting yourself off mic by that next interaction. And possibly, if this is an important meet, you're not going to want to go, oh, hold it, I've just got to get my hand up my jumper, move that around. So all these things, this is what factual teaches you, which is tremendously useful when you attempt something like this in drama. So yeah, good questions, I think.
Did you find the pressure of long takes when filming help you or other crew be more focused, or was it just more stress?
It did it help you be focused? I'm not sure, but you had to be focused. You really had to lock in. And locking in, I think, is like almost anything. The more you practice it, the better you get at it, the luckier you get.
I mean, being focused on set is part of the deal. You know, like there is a set discipline, like not having your phones, because if you're on set with actors and then you cut a take and everyone goes to their phone, all of the energy drains away from the performance.
Yeah.
And the actors need you to be there, and they need everyone to be switched on. So there's a lot of, and also, I don't know, from my perspective, as an observational documentary camera person, as my background, I'm listening. I'm always listening to what's happening, because I'm thinking, well, can I be on a 2-shot now, or should I push in on a single? Or what they're saying is not very interesting, but I'm going to stay here because that's going to be my cutaway and my reaction shot. Oh, now what they're saying is interesting and moving. And I think those sorts of skills, rather than the focus or the stress, do you know what I'm saying? It's like it's the fact that you've been trained to always be switched on.
Yes.
When you're on with the camera.
And you're being given subtle clues about what the person you're filming is going to do next. And that goes for factual or drama. You need those cues. Even if it's really tightly scripted and everyone just says those words, you're not quite sure how they're going to move and things like that. If you see them getting tenser and tenser, you might want to sort of move the boom up a little bit or pan them down just a tad because you know something's going to explode. All those things, yeah. It's watching for little clues that gives you an idea of what's going to happen next, and so you can be prepared for it.
Experiential. I mean, in terms of the point on stress, I've worked on sets with shouty people. I'm sure you have. And when I started out, it was really pretty unpleasant. I mean, I had a grip that I worked with who screamed at a third or fourth AD for telling to stop talking during a take, even though the first AD had said. And there was a kind of culture of quite kind of unpleasant stuff. That seems to have faded away, but I think one of the things that's really important is you might be really, really, really stressed, but you just could never show that. You have to always stay calm, because that affects how other people work.
It does.
If you're shouting and screaming, then everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have worked with shouty directors.
I have. I agree with what you're saying. I think you are entering a world which is getting better creatively, and how we treat each other is just getting better. It used to be very departmentally siloed. like sound department didn't have any trouble with the camera department because they were all bastards. You know, which is ridiculous, really, if you think about it. I mean, especially anyone who's come from a documentary background. You know.
That grip that I was telling you about, he told me with pleasure about an incident where a light, the director of photography said, we need to move that light. There's a ladder sat there. So the spark says, oh, I'll grab the ladder. You're not allowed to touch it, that's the carpenter's ladder. So they wait 15 minutes for them to bring the lighting. It's the same fucking ladder, but just with lighting written on it, rather than carpenter. And then they put it up and they move it. And this grip was like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. Like, you know, the unions had this level of control that was really damaging and created really unpleasant.
Yeah.
You know, like you're talking about the siloing, it's like, it's the same ladder. It's exactly the same, but just with a different lettering on it.
One thing I'd really recommend all of you do is, and I'm sure you probably do it naturally, but if you work as a team, and also if you learn something about the other disciplines, what they're trying to do, you'll see where you can help them and where you are inadvertently making their lives a living hell. And try not to do that. And hopefully the same will be, the same sort of courtesy will be extended to you. But if you learn about what everyone else is trying to do, let's think on a drama, there's lots of sitting around. But someone once said to me, which I really did sink in, and said, okay, you're sitting around, but you can guarantee someone else whose job is equally important as yours is frantically busy trying to end this you sitting around. So just give them, you know, give them the credit that's due there. Because unless every department works well, none of them do.
Yeah. Which leads us on, having worked on these sets with so much high quality work going from everyone involved, has it ever tempted you to branch into other disciplines, or do you think you're fixed on sound as your passion?
I think I'll stay with sound. I keep trying to direct because I think I'm better at it than everyone else. But I realise that that's a weakness of mine. It's not actually true.
Yeah. Okay, has anyone got any other questions they wanted to throw out, or they haven't been able to add to the Padlet? Oh, go on, Katie.
Can you just explain to students what a pod is versus word and word?
The pod on the top of the van.
Okay, what it is you build a frame on top of a car or a van where a driver can sit in, and you bypass the steering and the clutch and throttle and stuff like that. So all of that's put on top of it. It's usually, it's like a roll. It looks like the top of a beach buggy, really, you know, with a roll cage over it. So it's just literally got a seat, steering and pedals. And they do that so, like, quite often, if you see like in a James Bond film, he's doing difficult driving, that's not him. That's someone sitting on top of his car, a pro driver doing it for him.
Some project. Any other questions? No?
This is a bit random, but you said you worked on Top Gear. Were you in an episode where they raced against the Germans and you had to drive in one of the cars? I think I remember that.
Kiff gets recognised in really random places as, like, they look at him and then they look at his hand and they go, and then they look at him and then they go, Top Gear?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, which, just for the record, that was tremendous fun, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you actually lose your hand in a shark attack, or was that just what they said on
No,
Top
it's
Gear?
just what they said.
Yeah, I mean, we
I
work with...
had to actually I had to maintain that line because that's what I told the people in the tournament. Just so they let me on the boats, because the first time they saw me, they said, "Oh, he can't come on." And
What, because they thought you wouldn't be safe?
yeah, and so I hooked onto one of the pipes on the boat and hung on it, and just said, "How long do you think you could hang on for?" And then I told them that this was a shark attack, and they decided I was so tough that, you know. But that's a lie.
The classic one is somebody coming up to you and going, "Can I give you a hand?" So that happens all the time. But yeah, Kiff gets recognised from Top Gear a lot. I think I haven't worked with Clarkson, thankfully, but I've worked a lot with Hammond. But yeah, do you want any old war stories or anything? I've got any. Come on, throw some questions. All right, I'll give you one. We talk about observational documentary. I think all of us went through a phase, which is now shot much more by shooting APs and shooting producers, but like reality shows, the most horrific, just exploitative, nasty stuff. Striptease, X Factor for strippers, that was one of my favourites. Pram-faced mansion, that's another one. So what was your most horrific, ethically horrific shoot?
It was a Channel 5, it was a pilot actually, which I thought that will never be made. It was called You Can't Take It With You. And it was about how you go to someone who has been who lost either their husband or their wife. You take someone from the Antiques Roadshow to value their stuff, and then you discuss who they're going to leave it to, and, which of their children they're going to leave it to. And then you go round to the children's house and stir up trouble. I mean, it was hideous. It was. I'll give you an example. It's sort of we went to these two daughters' houses. They said, "What would you like from, for example, your fathers?" And they both said, "Anything, nothing. It's just not important." And then the producer said, "But how about Sylvester and Christopher? I mean, you were his oldest daughter. Don't you think you should have that?" And you could see the wheels going. Yeah, I should. Actually, I should have that. And they started making it about them. And we started making it about them. It was utterly horrible. And I went away thinking, well, that would never get made. And I was actually telling that story to another crew I was working with just, for one day. And the director got really quiet. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "I worked on that for the first series." They made a series. And Channel 5 had never had such a popular series. They wanted to make another 2 or 3. And everyone just went, "No, we're just not going to do it." Even Endemol, which is essentially the Mordor of the television world, said no.
Peter Bazalgette's like Sauron, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Feel like we should end on an upbeat note.
Okay.
Good.
I would say you're setting out on the path in an industry which has problems at the moment, but is incredibly exciting. Okay, a lot of the things that I've been doing most of my career is sort of pushing things to the next level. You, with the tools that are now available to you, it's only your imagination which is stopping you. It really is.
There's a lot of things that you could not have done Adolescence 15 years ago.
No. And there are things that you probably know about that I don't even know about that will make what you're going to produce in your career is spectacular. That just depends on you, but good luck.
Thank you for that. All right, Katie.
What would be your 2 or 3 top tips as students recording their sound now going out?
Two or three
To
top
improve.
sound recording tips.
Or
Be
10.
on time. That's the first one. I'm afraid it's just, this industry is sort of, you can be as quirky as you like. If you're late, you're out. That's the first one. Second one, think about what you're going to do before you do it. I mean, really think about it. Just think, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to put a mic on them. Okay, do I have the microphone? Yes. Do I have the clip? Do I have the gag? I do. Okay, where am I going to put the mic? Is it going to go in their pocket? If they don't have a pocket, if they're wearing a dress, what would I do? Perhaps I should have a strap or something. Make sure I've got a strap. And then the mixer. Have I got the mixer? I've got batteries for the mixer. I've got this. Literally, pull it apart in your head like a psychotic person. Just go through every detail. Once you've done that, once you've kind of solved all the problems beforehand, when you actually get there, you're pretty relaxed because you know everything that you're going to do. which makes you seem calm, which calms down everyone else. So that's it. When you go, be on time, be early. Secondly, have thought about everything that you're going to do before you even leave your house. And finally, the last one is mic placement. If you put it in the right place, it will sound good. Okay, if it's a radio mic, sternum, that bone there, it reflects sound, it's the perfect distance from your mouth. If you're ever wondering about how far mic, if you do that, that's about the perfect distance for a radio mic. Right? If it's much closer than that, you know, like you might be shadowing it by the chin, so it won't sound quite as good. But anyway, but it's mic placement, so play around with it. If it's not sounding right, move it. If you've been relaxed and you're early and all this sort of thing, people will kind of like you. They'll let you do it. You go, I'm sorry, I'm just not happy with that, I'm getting something. Most people will go along with you if you do that. Just be nice and shift it around until it's in the right place. Same with the boob. Here is much better than over there. Think about it, you know, it's an ear.
And it's about, I mean, it's collaborative, isn't it? Like, you know, I'm trying to get a shot, you're trying to get sound. We've got to work together. If I do a big wide at the same time as I do a tight shot, I'm basically screwing you.
Yes.
Because you can't get the sound for those two contacts.
No. So yeah, talk to the other people, you know, being part of the team, I think I said that earlier on. Collaborate with your team. And also, sometimes it's not they're trying to mess you about. It hasn't occurred to them that they are.